Our next speaker is Gayle McLaughlin, and she certainly is no stranger to progressives. Gayle is the founder of the Richmond Progressive Alliance and the California Progressive Alliance. She served as mayor of Richmond and on its city council. She was first elected in 2004. In Richmond, she led the fight against foreclosures by advocating that the city use eminent domain to protect homeowners' rights against the banks. After running for lieutenant governor in 2020, Gayle was reelected to serve on the Richmond City Council. We are so delighted to have you back in our community, working for housing and for progressive values. And we are delighted you're with us tonight, Gayle.
Thank you so much, Sherry, and thank you to our Revolution East Bay for once again inviting me to participate in these conversations that you have on various aspects of progressive ideas and justice-oriented policies. So I'm always very, very informed by participating and happy to share some of the ideas and work I've been doing. So let me get started here. So let me start out by saying we need housing justice because housing is a human right. I think we all know that. And currently, the housing crisis has been accelerated by COVID-19. So how do we truly get to housing justice and truly affordable housing? Well, I think the first thing we all have to do, and I'm sure we all agree with this, is to resist the greed. For-profit developers are out for profit. That's a fact. They say affordable housing is too expensive to build because they can't recoup their costs with low-priced homes, home prices, and low rents. So what happens? We get more market-based housing and more luxury housing. And that's just what we don't need. So we need to get away from seeing housing as a commodity. It needs to be seen as a human right. And we need government to step in and do subsidized housing and social housing. A lot of what I'm saying will dovetail with what both Stephen and Alfred have both said. I think, we all are like-minded here, but it bears repeating. These ideas are very important for us all to really imprint in our minds. So we need government to play a strong role here. And right now, all of the existing local, state, and federal affordable housing programs add up to only 10% of the money needed to build truly affordable housing. So in some ways, when these for-profit developers say, well, we can't afford to build them because we can't recoup our costs, well, prices have risen, so they can't, but that doesn't mean we can't find a solution and that we should just let them get their big profits. There are nonprofit developers who do good work, but government has a strong role to play. So if we think that new federal programs are going to be coming, well, we hope that's the case, but it's still at this point wishful thinking, and we don't know how long we're going to be wishing. So this has already been said, but social housing is a very real solution. This is housing and apartments that are owned by local government or by other organizations that do not make a profit and that are rented to people who have low incomes. It's a kind of public housing, but not the kind of public housing that HUD has left unfunded for years, forcing cities to now shift to more Section 8 housing under private management. We need the kind of public housing that provides real quality of life housing to low-income people. European cities have been doing this with great success. Cities like Singapore, where 80% of their rental units their housing units are owned by the government. Vienna, Finland, and recently Berlin has a new referendum. This is really exciting. Berlin's new referendum that I think organizations have worked on for years, that was passed just recently, where voters said the government should expropriate property from the big landlords. Now, that's the kind of thing, the kind of radical solution we need. I'm going to follow that. I'm sure many of us are very closely. I think there's lawsuits that are expected and all this, but it's a start, and we have to keep fighting for good policies like that. Now, Finland has what's called their housing first policy, and that provides housing first to people. So, when you have unhoused people, we are often, and this is very important, to provide mental health services and substance abuse programs. But what Finland has done, and they've reduced their unhoused population 30%, they have first given them a place to live, a roof over their heads, and then provided through government housing, then provided the services that they need. Now, in the US, as I said, HUD has failed us deeply. They did not give cities sufficient funding. And now what they've done is require cities to transition HUD public housing units into Section 8 vouchers for apartment buildings that are privately owned. We need more government-sponsored homes, not private-sponsored homes. But Section 8 housing, of course, does help the renter. They only pay a third of their income, and the rest is subsidized. But new problems may be coming up. HUD had a lot of problems. Will having more and more of our housing under Section 8 vouchers also show to have a lot of problems? I think we've already seen a lot of that. I know in my district in Richmond, there are a lot of subsidized housing, and I've heard from constituents that they have problems with management and such. So, but in addition to the problems that they may have, those who are lucky enough to have the vouchers, there's not enough of these vouchers, and there's long waiting lines. So I don't see that Section 8 system as the full solution either, although it's certainly important to push for getting more vouchers for cities so we can offer help for our struggling families. Another way that we help with housing justice is by helping with tenant rights. Richmond has rent control. We fought hard for it. We were, I think it was 2016 that we got our rent control law passed, and it was the first time in 30 years that a city passed a new rent control law. So we were very proud of our work, and now we're working hard to maintain that law and help our tenants. And of course, with the pandemic, people are struggling, and more problems in terms of people being able to even pay their rent controlled amount has come up. So, there has been eviction moratoriums and such, and I brought forward a local Richmond eviction moratorium, which is still in effect, which helps, doesn't help with all evictions, but it does help. And I also most recently brought forward a tenant anti-harassment ordinance. In addition, I'm right now exploring with ACE, the Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment, and with our city attorney's office, a way to strengthen our rental inspection ordinance. We need not only to provide affordable homes, but affordable rents, but we need to make sure that all the maintenance and repairs are happening and tenants aren't being retaliated against or harassed when they complain to the landlord. Now, of course, another part of housing justice is the need to help the unhoused. And we know as a result of the pandemic, homelessness has increased exponentially. It was bad before, but now it's far worse. So I'm working closely with a group in Richmond, a wonderful group. I just nominated them for an award for from the county, Contra Costa County, which they are receiving. So I'm excited about that. The name of the group is SOS Richmond, Safe Organized Space Richmond, and they're a great group. And some of the things we're working on, we've been able to fund them In Richmond, we've shifted some money from the police department into social programs. And one of those programs is to help the unhoused. So SOS, and they're working with Rebuilding Together East Bay North, which is a nonprofit. And they have received about 1.8 million for a year. And so we're working hard to utilize that money in the best possible way. Things that we're doing is we have a scattered sites ordinance where the city is working with churches and houses of worship to have them host RVs of unhoused people. And each church can host up to 1 to 4 RVs in their parking lots. And this is, it's just getting started, and we have about 8 to 10 churches that are already very interested. We're also exploring sites for a transitional village of cabins and a transitional RV village. So we need this interim sheltering approach as we continue to work to provide permanent housing. It's like you got to help people by keeping their encampments clean and trash removed, and helping people with whatever needs they have, food, substance abuse help, or mental health help, but also move them into a much better managed park, like a safe RV park or a transitional village of cabins. So we're working on that interim solution. And then, of course, we're working with the county to get them hooked into the system so that they could get into affordable housing as it becomes available. And of course, we're helping them get jobs. SOS has a great model because they hire the unhoused. A lot of that $1.8 million is going to pay salaries to the unhoused who are helping with the trash pickup, who are helping with the mobile showers, who are helping provide water and food and base and security, and just in general maintaining the needs of those who find themselves in an unhoused situation. So right now they have 20 people that are funded and with jobs, full-time jobs, $17 an hour. So we want to expand on that. The hope is that we'll have 60 unhoused people with jobs over the course of this year. We're also trying to get the county to help us with some sites in the unincorporated part of North Richmond, because it's hard to find sites for transitional villages. There's that NIMBYism that comes into play, so we want to make sure we have enough sites in places away from residents and still close enough to services. And of course, we'll have those mobile services come to them. So let's see. So basically, let me just summarize a little bit. We want to keep people housed who are already housed, and we want to help bridge the pathway to housing for those who are not housed. We want to expand laws and regulations protecting renters with rent control and against unjustified evictions. We want to protect also homeowners from losing their homes to, banks with foreclosures and evictions. That was something that I was working on a lot during the foreclosure crisis, and we can just rev that up again as time goes on. And I know Stephen talked about this, but promoting land trusts is very, very important, and it's a very innovative solution. With this solution, with this option, housing is seen as a social provision, not as a commodity that may generate a huge profit. And housing is built on community land trusts by mutual interest associations and cooperatives. And there's likely some capital gains over years and for the ownership based on improvements of a community land trust. But overall, it fundamentally offers long-term affordability and secure tenure and an opportunity for community building. So to make all this possible, we also need a public bank. We need funding to build a community land trust, to maintain it. Nonprofits need it. so need money to, and people need money to help with mortgages for affordable housing. So a public bank is really important. So some of the things that I have done and will continue to do is continue to support our rent control and just cause laws, continue to support the needs of people residing in what remains of our local public housing, expand local support to house people who are experiencing homelessness, and continue to support the mobilizing and organizing of local renters. That's how we get things done, when we organize and put pressure on, whoever, the local body or the staff or the state or the feds. And we need to revise zoning laws so there will not be barriers to social housing. And I mentioned promoting a public bank. Another idea is to rally the building trade unions in support of building social housing. The building trades can often be an obstacle on certain projects, but hey, this is a good project. We want them to be a part of a coalition to build the kind of housing that we really want and need. And so, just building a housing justice coalition, I think it goes beyond one city or another. I think Alfred mentioned this, that, we all are part of a region, and, like homelessness is a regional problem. It could be a regional solution, and affordable housing, the same thing. We could all come together as a part of a coalition. And let's face it, East Bay, our revolution, is already bringing people together. And so we also want to require private banks to lend more for social housing development. And I've been working with the Community Reinvestment Coalition to push banks to provide more investment in communities. And so let me end with just a couple more thoughts. I think I may be about at time. I'm on the interim board of the East Bay Public Bank, and I'm very excited that things are moving forward. It's a complex, long process. I have applied to be on the permanent board and hope to represent Richmond in that way. And I want to my final statement is to say that these conversations that our Revolution East Bay holds are so important. I remember the one about the local green or the regional Green New Deal, or, really focusing on not taking it away. We could use a national Green New Deal as well, but to focus also on what we can do in terms of local Green New Deals. And I know Witsky and Mark were both very much in the forefront of that, and all of you were supporting that in a major way. I was very much influenced, so that I brought forward an item to the Richmond City Council, which was passed, to hire a consultant to create, I call it the Green Blue New Deal, because blue is for like waterway water-based jobs, because we have a lot of bay shoreline in Richmond. So we want those green jobs, whatever they are, but also jobs to clean up our shoreline and, restore our shoreline and make sure we have that kind of protection throughout the city and on our shoreline that's going to help us preserve the planet as a whole. So I'm very, very excited that we have this regional avenue to explore ideas. And with that, I'll say it's good to be here, and I'll look for, I heard it was great to hear from the other two panelists, and I'll look forward to the other panelists. I think there's one more, and the Q&A period.
I said, okay, thank you, Gayle. Once again, you're always welcome as a part of our Revolution East Bay.